Imagine this. After a bunch of searching, you finally find an app that you've been looking for and download it. But you're aware that where you found it might not be a fully trustworthy source. Maybe it's a Jack Sparrow edition, or it's an old app that you can't find from an official source anymore, so you got it from Billy Bob's Software Archive or a random forum download link. In any case, you are smart, and upon extracting the files and seeing that there's only one exe among them, you scan it with an antivirus or even upload it to VirusTotal, all clean. And because you are also a computer genius, or you saw the one video I made, you even check the EXE's embedded signature, which shows it was signed via a trusted certificate by the original developer, which guarantees that it really is the original file from the developer and hasn't been tampered with. So it all seems to check out. You run the file, the program even opens, but you just got hacked. And you probably won't even notice because the app will still work and behave totally normally. Then what happened? Well, you fell for one of the trickier malware strategies out there called DLL hijacking or DLL sideloading, depending on the context. And the problem was not the exe at all, but rather one of those other files you probably ignored, a DLL. If you didn't know, DLLs, or dynamic link libraries, also contain executable code just like exe files, but they aren't independent apps. You can't run them directly. This is an oversimplification, but they're basically just a collection of various functions and stuff that other apps can use, like borrowing a friend's toolbox to use his hammer instead of having to manufacture a hammer yourself from scratch. Going back into our imagined analogy, in that case, the app really does need some of the DLLs, which contains code that the app uses, and the original app used them too. And maybe it's a function called really cool function. But when writing the program, the developer didn't add enough logic to validate that it was loading the correct DLL. It only loads it by name. Even more unfortunate, some evil hacker realized this and made his own DLL where he replaced really cool function with something that installs another virus. Because he knew that people would trust that it was a signed file, and even if people weren't checking, it would still be less likely to get picked up and detected by an antivirus because the code was called by a signed app. Even worse, the fake DLL could even pass along the function request over to the real DLL, which the hacker included but renamed. So the program would still work, and that's called DLL proxying. So what are some ways you can protect yourself? Well, there's a few tricks actually that I can share for how to spot this. Before going over those though, a critical factor is having a good antivirus that can recognize malicious behavior of apps. Just like today's sponsor, Bitdefender, and their all-in-one security plan, Bitdefender Premium Security. It's more than just some antivirus program, but a complete security suite, including advanced threat defense, which, relevant to this video, can protect against brand new malware by analyzing its behavior, not just relying on signatures, though of course it can detect them that way too. And related to that, with exploit detection, Bitdefender can also detect malware that exploits a vulnerability in an otherwise legitimate application, like a zero-day exploit that an app hasn't patched yet, or maybe the app is old and was never patched. Bitdefender can detect more than just malicious apps though. It also detects malicious scripts, command line commands, process memory, keyloggers, and more. And with features like network threat prevention, it can stop network attacks before they begin by blocking malicious attempts on system vulnerabilities and brute force attacks. With Bitdefender Premium Security, you even get protection for your mobile devices, where it can detect malicious links even when they appear in SMS messages, chat apps, calendar invites, or mobile app URLs. It also has online scam protection through their Scam Copilot AI platform, including features like scam ad detection to block fake or malicious ads, blocking scam websites, and detecting new scam patterns. So if you care about security but don't want to have to worry about it, check the link in the description to learn more about Bitdefender Premium Security. And with all that being said, let's continue on to some other ways you can spot malicious DLLs. Now, first of all, technically there are other strategies where hackers can use DLLs besides just putting it in a download next to the app. But in terms of the initial infection, this is probably how it would happen, so we can just focus on that. The main thing is that you need to be able to trust both the program itself and who wrote it, and the source from where you acquired it. And by the way, you can tell the signature if you go into the properties panel, and you'll know that it has a trusted signature if it says the signature is okay in there. And you do have to actually double click to view the details of the signature. It's simply having one doesn't necessarily mean that it's valid. For example, if it shows a red X, then that means there's something wrong with the signature. Now, if you're not sure about the source, but it's just a single exe and it's signed, then it's fine. Or also, if it's a bunch of separate files, but all of them are signed, then that's fine. If not everything is signed, but it's downloaded from a trusted source, like the official website of the developer, that would also be fine. Otherwise, if you can't find it anywhere except some random person who uploaded it to their Google Drive or something, well, first of all, reconsider even running that. But of course, you can apply some common sense. Like if it was posted on some forum and the user who posted it is a longtime member and is generally trusted, you could make a judgment call there, though you should still check every single file because you can't be sure where they got it. They might not even know if it's malicious. Here's an example of a GitHub issue reply that is obviously malicious. Looking at it, I mean, they posted a link to a mega.nz file of a passworded zip folder, which is a nuclear red flag. So I don't know how this one still has not been deleted. Anyway, if you look at the person's account, it seems like it was either a legitimate user who had their account hacked, or they really put a lot of work into making it look real. So you really have to think about what you consider a trusted source. Now, if you download the app and there are unsigned DLLs, or maybe even the exe itself isn't signed, and also it's not necessarily a trusted source, but you're insisting you want to investigate and maybe run it, here are some ideas, but again, you probably just shouldn't. If you know the program itself is really old, like 10 years older or more, you could upload each file to VirusTotal and then look at the first submission date for each, and then see if those are all also really old. The longer it's been around, obviously, the more likely it is that it would be recognized at some point if it was malicious. You could also check if the first submission date for any of the files is way more recent than the date of the others. That could also be a clue that it doesn't belong. Next, another good thing to know is that VirusTotal shows a list of all the file names that file has been called when it's been uploaded by different people. So what you can do is upload each DLL and then look if there's any that had been submitted in the past under a different name, and which is the same name as one of the other DLLs you downloaded. Now, stay with me, here's why. Say, for example, the exe came with a bunch of DLLs, and when you upload one to VirusTotal called random.dll, you notice that it had also been uploaded at some point under the name videotools.dll. And then you look at the other DLLs that you downloaded, and you notice there is a different file that is named videotools.dll, but not this one. That could mean that random.dll is actually the real videotools.dll, but the one that is included in the download is fake and malicious, but then forwards any commands to the renamed real DLL, which, like I said, is called DLL proxying. That would only be the case if the malware actually does DLL proxying, though. They might not always do this, especially if the original DLL wasn't super critical and didn't make the program crash. Though, if the original DLL is included and renamed, another thing you can do is look at the details tab in the properties of all the DLLs that are signed, because if they're signed, that means you can actually trust the info in the details tab and that it wasn't tampered with. And there may be a original file name field, which is what the file was called when it was actually signed. So again, if there's one where the original file name says something different than what it's actually called, and it's also the name of a different file, that is suspicious. Though again, that's if you really want to play dangerously. If you're putting that much effort into it, you probably just shouldn't trust it. But in any case, for the rest of us, the main thing to remember is it's not just EXEs that you run that can be dangerous. It can be other stuff that they load, including DLLs. So you really have to trust both the source and the files themselves, because a lot of times DLLs, for one reason or another, are not signed. So that's why it's really important to get it from a trusted source. So I would be curious, which of you maybe didn't know about this? Are you going to be checking from now on? Let us know down in the comments. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a big giant thumbs up. Absolutely annihilate the like button. It helps out. Thanks again to Bitdefender for sponsoring. And be sure to check out Bitdefender Premium Security through the link in the description. If you want to keep watching, the next video I'd recommend is where I talked about other different file types that could also be viruses. So it's pretty relevant. I'll put that link right there you can click on. And if you want to subscribe, I try to make videos about twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday, so it should be worth it. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.